Hey everybody, this is Joe Payne here for another political pain. The election is tomorrow. I'm probably not going to do a ton of live streaming or live coverage or anything like that. There's tons of people doing that. I'm going to be, just focusing and watching with everybody else what's going on. I might do a live stream on Instagram, follow me there, Facebook, whatever, who knows. But what I want to talk about day before the election is something that you might have witnessed if you were out driving during the weekend, this last weekend, which was the MAGA Drag the Interstate, it was called. And this was literally a nationwide movement of Trump supporters driving around in long caravans with their flags flying. Their American flags, their Trump flags, other flags as well. I'll get to that in a second. But we had it here on the Central Coast. This is a MAGA drag that went along the Highway 101 in the Central Coast. This might be around San Luis Obispo, and or it could be somewhere else. I'm not sure. But so basically, we have all these Trump supporters driving around, lots of trucks. Here's a SUV, bikers, and they're flying their flags. There were, like I said, American flags, Trump flags. There were also thin blue line flags. There were also don't tread on me flags, some QAnon flags. Just it runs the gamut. And I find it interesting that, this is seen as a big, I think I saw one flag that said, make the liberals cry again in one of the live streams or one of the videos I saw. And so this is really considered for Trump supporters a big showing of support, but also just a showing of numbers and kind of a, in some cases, a show of force. I'm going to get to in a minute how some of these things got violent. I'm not aware of any of them here on the Central Coast going that way. There you have it. So a couple of things I want to talk about is, this did slow down traffic. It is a little ironic in San Luis Obispo. There's a Black Lives Matter activist named Tiana Rada and a few others who are facing charges for blocking traffic. Traffic wasn't stopped completely. It was slowed down quite a bit in the Central Coast. In New York, however, there was here we can see that a entire bridge was just blocked and stopped entirely. And here it was kind of driving through, honking their horns. And so, this is kind of a way for Trump supporters to, like I said, show their support, but also they are kind of engaging in some scofflawing, some, minor law breaking by blocking traffic, and it's interesting because, like I said, in San Luis Obispo, we have a very conservative district attorney, Dan Dow, who's going after Black Lives Matter activists for blocking traffic, saying they were impeding other people's constitutional rights. And of course, throughout the summer, Black Lives Matter activists who've blocked traffic have been met with tear gas and rubber bullets. I'm not the first to mention this. But so, it is a little interesting in that case. But we also have other incidents that have gotten attention from the FBI because in Texas, there was a situation, a Trump caravan surrounded a Biden-Harris tour bus, and this is what happened. They surrounded them and slowed the bus down. Then you're going to see, watch this truck smash into that car right there.
Look at that.
Yeah, shit indeed. So that truck, if you didn't see it, just smashed this car,
Look at that.
pushed it over. And that car actually had Biden campaign staff and volunteers inside of it. So this was like straight up intimidating a Biden staffers and Biden campaign volunteers, physically smashing into them with a big truck. As you can see, that's a large truck, not much compared, or the van that the Biden supporters are in, it's not much compared to that Trump truck. So there were all these, there's a bunch of different things that happened with it that are a bit concerning. Like I said, the FBI had to get involved and they're investigating it because local law enforcement wasn't exactly, let's say, moving quickly on the whole situation. There was a local sheriff who said, well, the Biden campaign didn't tell us they were doing anything like this. So, they didn't, basically trying to put some of the onus on the Biden campaign that, they were instigating things. This is what has continually happened, as when conservatives attack leftists or, you know, Black Lives Matter or, you know, political attacks, there, ever since Black Lives Matter resurged, there has been this reticence by law enforcement to really take it seriously or engage with it, which is, I think, very troubling. It disturbs me for the security of voting. There was, I don't have footage of this queued up already, but in North Carolina over the weekend, there was a Black Lives Matter march led by a reverend that marched to a city hall where a voting was. They were going to vote. It was a get out the vote march, and they were pepper sprayed and by police and told to disperse. So that's troubling that the vote is being blocked by police. But in this case, we have the FBI is investigating this. Let's see. I think I have another story here. But the Biden campaign had to cancel the events that it was having that day. That truck was headed on its way to. They canceled those events because, you know, it was, you know, they were afraid of anything else happening, any more attacks from Trump supporters happening. But how did Trump respond to this? He actually retweeted another video of it. And what did he say? Well, I love Texas, Trump said. So, you know, and oddly enough, Trump several times at rallies over the last day or two has talked about attacking Biden, like physically talking about how weak he thinks Biden looked. Like, I could take him, his legs look kind of skinny. I could hit him. I could knock him down pretty easy. So, you know, this is just where we're at. You know, if you look to one of my previous videos, it's doing really well. There were some Trump supporters and some counter protesters in Santa Maria that started fighting. There was a fight there, and people are just like ready to get into shit. I mean, basically, is the way I see it. They are ready to start stuff, and they're ready to get violent. I think it's really bad. I'm actually very worried about Election Day. I think it's good that a lot of people have voted early so that a bunch of the vote will get counted. If there's disturbances at the polling places and voter intimidation. In some cases, these caravans, people have alleged that they were attempting voter intimidation by crowding around polling places and slowing down people's access and intimidating people. I think that happened in Temecula. There was a huge Trump you know, type caravan thing. And so, you know, this is, I just hope, what I'm really most worried about is the vote counters, the people who count the votes, county registrar's office, county electors' offices, where they are the ones who count the votes. We don't want a repeat of 2000, of the Brooks Brothers riot, where you know, paid Bush operatives actually helped stop the vote count. But just one last thing from this incident in Texas. The head of the Texas Republican Party responded to you know, what happened here. The Texas Tribune, long-standing paper, asked them a question, and it's just nuts. I mean, this is how nuts the Republican Party has really gone. And I just want you to read this. Of course, I clicked this, and the tweet takes me all the way here. So the chairman Alan West's response: 3 Trump supporters have been executed. 1 in Portland, 1 in Denver, and 1 in Milwaukee. A leftist mob attempted to storm the house of the McCloskeys, threatening to burn their house down, rape Mrs. McCloskey, and then kill them both. That was a Black Lives Matter protest that was marching by their house. This is nuts to characterize it. And he's talking about the couple that brandished guns at these peaceful marchers. Whereas the liberal corporate media is concerned about that real violence. Additional, none of what your question implies is accurate. It's more fake news and propaganda. Prepare to lose. Stop bothering me. Maybe Soros can cut y'all another check in 2022. So, you know, you got anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about George Soros. Saying that the only real violence is when the left attacks the right. So he mentioned Portland, right? He mentioned Portland. Let's talk about Portland for a second, okay? There was a member of Patriot Prayer who was shot and killed in Portland, right? I did a video when this came out. This was like the same week as the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting in Kennesaw. And so what was the context in which that shooting happened in Portland? Well, what happened that day was a Trump caravan came to town. And what did that caravan do? It was armed with, the people in the caravan, the Trump supporters, were armed with paintball guns, with mace, and they tore through Portland, and they were attacking people. Look at this, right? They're driving it through crowds of people. They're shooting pepper spray, and look, they're throwing stuff at them. and they had paintball guns too. So, you know, this is the kind of double standard that we have on the right. You know, by and large, everyone on the left condemns violence. Of course, not Antifa. Antifa believes in meeting violent right-wing extremism with violence. But, you know, every candidate, Joe Biden, you know, oh, the violence is wrong, the looting is wrong, the rioting is wrong. They jump over their own feet to, you know, make that point that it's not okay. The violence is not okay. Trump, we see on the other hand, is openly just like loves it. I mean, he did this during his original campaign, talking about beating up protesters. I'll pay your legal fees. You know, back in the good old days, we take them out on a stretcher. And this isn't the first time. So that was Portland, but we have other situations where these Trump caravans get violent or they get very hostile to people. And these, keep in mind, a car is a deadly weapon. If you have people on the street, there have been multiple car attacks against Black Lives Matter. In Virginia, it was like a Grand Wizard of the KKK rammed his car into Black Lives Matter protesters. But in the case, I have another local example. This is from Ventura County. The Ventura Chumash came out on Indigenous Peoples Day. And they wanted to...
We are honored this day.
Here, look at this.
And always as Indigenous peoples of this land. For the County of Ventura to acknowledge tomorrow as Indigenous Peoples Day.
So here they are at the Ventura, you know, City Council or wherever it might be, the county. I'm not sure which public building, but they're there. And so a bunch of Trump supporters found out this was going on. So they jumped in their Trump trucks with their Trump flags, and they descended on the rally and just started honking their horns and yelling at people. Here's what, let's see here.
Julie, you want to tell us what's going on right here?
Oh, well, you know, somebody called them, and, you know, again, they say all lives matter. So it's okay. You know, it's a free world. Everybody can come in.
No, but we're trying to cross.
We are trying to, you know, come together. And so I don't know. I can't speak for them. We're here as Native Peoples Gathering. We're here standing in solidarity. We are, you know, this is nothing new to us. We've been facing this kind of adversarial and stuff forever, and hopefully there'll be a day when it's not going to be here anymore.
For Atlantis.
And that.
Oh, shit. Oh man, assault.
Yeah.
I never thought you had a peaceful protest. I mean, a peaceful rally. A rally.
It wasn't even a rally. It was a photo shoot.
Yeah, so that guy was talking about, that journalist saw people driving their cars into these natives who were, you know, just standing in the crosswalk in opposition to these Trumpers who showed up for it. Not a protest, not anything like that. It was just a ceremony for Indigenous Peoples Day. And Trumpers came out with their MAGA flags and their trucks to intimidate them. And so I think that it kind of makes a lot of sense that this could, you know, happen again. It has happened again. There was specifically a shooting in Virginia, I believe. One of these Trump caravans rolled through where some Black Lives Matter activists were demonstrating, or were just kind of, I think that the term they were using was occupying a Confederate flag, or sorry, Confederate monument. They were occupying a Confederate monument, Lee Circle. And so what happened was gunshots rang out. This guy, you can see in this picture, has a bullet hole in his car. And so that, you know, that there was allegedly pepper spray fired out from some of these cars. Tempers flared Sunday as a Trump train of cars tried to pass Lee Circle along Monument Avenue and clashed with opposing protesters, drawing a police presence that blocked the area to traffic. So in this case, shots were fired. Now I don't want to hope for the worst or try to predict the worst, but the level of the possibility of violence around the election day tomorrow, and you might be watching this on election, you might, who knows when you're seeing this, it's very real. And I don't think, you know, we should be at all comfortable with the amount of hostility and hatefulness that comes from, you know, Trump at the top of it, and a lot of his supporters. Not all of his supporters. You always have to do that. There's always the people who are going to claim naivety and like, oh, but we're not. But but this naivety, or they'll say, I don't support, I'm not really, I like this policy or that policy, I'm not for all the divisiveness, I wish you wouldn't tweet all the time. You hear that from Trump supporters. And really, this idea of being complicit with what's going on. You can turn a blind eye to the violence, whether it's the violence being enacted on immigrants and refugees in the concentration camps or the holding facilities, whether it's the violence against poor people and old people and people who have health issues through the COVID-19 epidemic. The government has the ability to protect public health, and it's a matter of public safety. The Trump administration made it clear they had no interest in doing that. And who's paying the price most heavily? It's people of color, it's people with health conditions, it's the old. So that in my opinion is a type of violence. Just because somebody's not pulling the trigger, well, it's a systemic violence that exists in our society. Now, I find it interesting that there are Trump supporters who, they might not go out and do a full-on MAGA drag or whatever they call it, but they support Donald Trump, and they think that everybody's reaction to the divisiveness, the hatefulness, and that they're overreacting, and just calm down. I'm not like that. And I think a good metaphor for that comes from another MAGA drag type event, and it's the Trump boat parades. There were a bunch of these Trump boat parades, and Trump was very happy about them. But remember, these are class indicators. A MAGA, tooling around in your boat. How many Americans can actually afford a boat? And then you're tooling around in your boat to show your support for Trump. That's clearly, to me, it's a class indicator. You're showing everybody, you're the type of person who owns a boat, and you support Trump, who's, cut my taxes and this and this and that. Now, at this one in Texas, there were 5 boats that sunk during this. This was in September, during this Trump boat parade. And the reason why a bunch of these boats sank is because there were so many boats engaged in this boat parade, and they were all going faster than was recommended by the authorities. And so they created these massive wakes, and these massive wakes are what knocked over a bunch of these Trump boaters. And so some of these were basically like, Pleasure Palace, little mini yachts, lake yachts, basically, that were ripping through really fast, or some were speedboats, more expensive boats. And they totally kicked up and overturned smaller boats, maybe not so expensive boats. People still supported Trump, were there to support Trump. But, they got knocked over by the larger, reckless boats. Those people didn't care. They didn't care enough. They were just too invested in themselves and their own demonstration of their support for Donald Trump to care about what would happen to other people around them if they engaged in such stuff. Now, here's another example of this. This is actually in Oregon, in the Willamette River, in Portland, and here's some Trump boats tearing through fast. You can see the wakes they're creating. And this is really sad because there's a family here in this other boat, and they are not part of the Trump boat parade. You're about to see them in a moment. So you see these large wakes getting created. Those are Trumpers. Now, these people in this, they don't have any Trump flags. Their boat got filled with water, and it starts to go down. You can hear them crying out for help and screaming. And I think if you wanted, you hear them screaming for help. So if you wanted a perfect metaphor for, what it means to be a Trump supporter and do something like this to demonstrate your love of Donald Trump, fly a flag with his name on it, why don't we see a lot of Democrats doing it? There are some Biden flags, and it's funny because we've seen people. I've seen people try to organize their own Biden, there's one guy on a bike, I think, in the 5 cities of Rio Grande who, puts his Biden flag on a bike and rides it around and tries to get other people involved. But why aren't Democrats super interested in that? Well, you could make the case that we're not super excited about Biden, that he's basically just not Trump, and I think that's a good argument to make. But, the kind of nationalism and the authoritarianism that you see on the right just doesn't exist among Democrats. Democrats do have their love of their candidates and stuff like that, but they're also very kind of, what I'm trying to search for the word. You know, they're not. We're not so enthused with our glorious leaders. We don't see them that way. They're politicians. We elect them usually to stave off some terrifying Republican, which they've only gotten crazier and crazier, as Donald Trump is a clear example of. And I just think it's a clear indicator that Democrats and people in the center or the left, or who lean more left, they make pragmatic decisions of who they vote for. Whereas people on the right, I mean, the Republican Party, a lot of people in the Republican Party were waiting for Donald Trump. When you heard them say he's not politically correct, they love that he's not politically correct. What they kind of meant between the lines was he's going to mainstream racist ideas. He's going to enact racist policies, and that's clearly what's gone on. Whether it's at the border, whether it's his tack towards Black Lives Matter, etc. That's what the Republican Party maybe always was, but has clearly solidified as under Donald Trump. And now you can see how clearly class is factored into it. These are people who own boats. They own big giant trucks that probably aren't being used to haul lumber around all the time. They're using them to smash into Joe Biden supporters. In some cases, they're driving into Black Lives Matter supporters, using them in Portland to house Trump supporters with cans of mace and paintball guns to shoot at people. So this is the MAGA drag, as it were. It's really fascinating. Again, I'm not trying to characterize all Republicans. Some of them just went out for a drive with their Trump flag, and that's just fine. But I do think it's kind of interesting that this is the show of support, is to get in a big gas guzzling truck or SUV, cruise around with a flag, not in some cases the American flag, but a flag with the leader's name on it, and also the thin blue line flag and others. So I just think it's just one of those interesting aspects of how people show their patriotism, show their idea of politics. You can make a political statement with just a flag, how you fly it, or what kind of flag. Obviously, the Confederate flag, all those other ones fall into that. But anyway, I'm ranting here, so I'm going to stop the rant, and I'm going to say to you, hey, stay safe during Election Day. If you voted, try to vote safely. Or if you haven't voted, try to vote safely. If you have voted, then be safe. Make sure that you're prepared for anything that might come. There might be unrest in the street. It's really weird that we have to say that around an election, that there could be warring political factions in the streets of America. People have been talking, especially on the right, about civil war for months and months now, years, that is going to be another civil war, which, who knows? I don't think that's very likely. I think there might be massive unrest, but we'll just see. It might take days until we know for sure who has been ruled the winner of the election. It might be a couple months, January, until we know who's really going to be the president come what may or may not be an inauguration day. So we shall see. Please stay safe, everybody. This is Joe Payne, Political Pain. Again, hit the bell, hit all the things to please the demonic algorithms that live in our computers and rule our lives. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, here on YouTube. Also, you can go to my website, politicalpain.com, and donate to me if you want. I understand times are hard. We got a pandemic on, and massive, political schism, and, climate crisis, and there's just a crisis within a crisis within a crisis. So thanks for being here with me. Be careful out there. To quote the great Randy Newman, it's a jungle out there. So thanks, everybody. See you next time.